My name is Angela Brown and I care for my husband John, who has Alzheimer's disease. We've been married for just over 37 years and have 3 children who are all grown up and married and away from home. And it really has changed our lives. When I was referred to the memory clinic, the occupational therapist there was very good. She put me in touch with Age Concern to try and get attendance allowance, and told me to contact the Red Cross and to contact Crossroads. Then I contacted the Red Cross Carers Project, and Sally there was marvellous. She talked things through with me. And suggested that I contacted Crossroads, which I had been putting off. I think when you're first put in this situation, something's happened, you almost want to, well, I did anyway, sort of keep it to yourself. You think you can cope, and I don't want to tell people my husband's got Alzheimer's disease. But I wanted to do something. One particular day there was going to be a pamper day that the Red Cross had put on. So I thought, well, I can't leave my husband. I've got to contact Crossroads. And I had to go on the waiting list. Fortunately, I wasn't on for too long, a few months. And then I started having some help just on an ad hoc basis if there was an odd day. And then only from January this year have I now got somebody regularly for 4 hours a week. Well, I've had 4 days respite care. John went into Owldegg Home at Llandyssil. He went quite willingly last Monday morning and I left him. I've telephoned each day. He's been very, very restless there, the staff tell me, particularly in the evening. He's been wandering outside, looking for me. The staff say they just don't have sufficient members of staff in the evening to look after him.
We know that carers are in all walks of life. They're in every community. When you think that 3 in 5 people will be or has been a carer, that means that within a room of people that you're sitting chatting to, you're going to find a number of people who've either already experienced it or are likely to.
My social life has basically disappeared. It has gone. There are aspects of it that I miss terribly, but then there are certain other things that I don't miss at all. And I think that's what happens when you look after somebody, is that you gear yourself to look after that person. You start to lose interest in other things that you were interested in.
I'd say from about the age of, from when I became younger until I stopped being a young carer, I wasn't really a going out person at all. I mean, the last couple of years I've had a lot to catch up to do.
If somebody had asked me when I was about 40 or 45, what would you be doing in your retirement? I probably wouldn't have said, well, with a bit of luck, I'll be looking after a totally dependent child and going to see them 3 or 4 times a day, and perhaps not being able to get away on a holiday when we can. But it depends on what cards you are dealt in life. And there's no resentment as such. It wouldn't be our choice to do this. But because that is the situation, that is how we deal with it. But I do have to say that I think a major element of our life, and the thing that affects our life, is actually having a very supportive family and supportive friends.
When she was born, the first day the nurse thought that she might have Down syndrome, and it was a complete shock to us. We hadn't had any tests, And we wouldn't have had them because we don't believe in abortion, but it was just so devastating. Well, then it was confirmed that she did have Down syndrome. And for 3 days straight, I just couldn't stop crying. It was like the worst thing that could have happened in my life. I just didn't understand it, and I didn't know how I would cope or how the family would cope or how Alyssa would cope, because it's a pretty hard world out there.
It's 8 o'clock in the evening. I've come upstairs to do this because John is very, very confused this evening. He's got absolutely no idea who I am at all. He keeps asking when Angela is coming back. He cannot remember that she's been away. He cannot remember that I have been away. I've been trying to explain to him that the photograph on the desk of himself with me and the 4 grandchildren, but he cannot even relate that, you know, that's me in the photograph. And I said, can you remember who your children are? And he said, he's got James, and he's a lovely little boy. He can't remember the girls this evening, so perhaps he's very tired. Anyway, I've got to go. He's coming looking for me now.
I remember the first night here. I went to sleep, and this is really where the problem started, where his health was concerned. I was sleeping quite happily, and I heard a noise outside. And it was my father coming to look for me. He was afraid that I'd left the house, and he came up to basically check on me, wasn't it? And well, my reaction to that was, well, I've talked to people on Red Cross with it, as I shouted him, and I became angry with him. Not physically at all. I was crying, I was shouting, and I just told him never to do that again. My reaction was the same as if I had a child and that child crossed the road.
Before that, my husband, who was a very, very clever gentleman, professional gentleman, did everything. He organised them, and suddenly to find yourself having to deal with all the finances, deal with aspects of, taxation, things like that. And of course, one of the very first things we were advised to do, which was quite difficult, was going to the solicitor, and I have now enduring power of attorney because my husband is no longer able to deal with any financial matters whatsoever. So
I was teaching community care to students and to postgraduate nurses. So I am fairly au fait with the legislation as it was then. I'm fairly au fait with the differences between health and social services and the difference in funding between those bodies. And one of my major concerns is that I get bogged down and I ring people, and one person in one agency will have an angle on the roles. I ring the next agency and another person there has a slightly different angle on the roles. I ring the local health board and they tell me something extremely difficult. And I ring them up and I say, I taught you your community nursing element. This is going totally over my head. I do not know what you are talking about. How do people who have no idea of the system, how do carers get around it?
it's late morning, it's a different day. I've had a very frustrating day today. The social worker rang me up with regards to trying to arrange some more respite care for my husband. The home that he went to before will not have him back on the ordinary residential unit. They have said that they would be prepared to try him on the EMI unit, but only if I stay in the locality, which means I've got to stay at home while he goes just 20 miles away. And as this next visit, one's going to have to pay the full amount, which is going to be about £500 a week. What is the point of my staying at home on my own? I just feel absolutely fed up with it.